Welcome back to Movies Explained. Today's film is a horror from 2023 titled The Pope's Exorcist. The film begins in 1987, in the Italian city of Tropea. The Vatican's leading exorcist, Father Gabriele Amorth, is summoned to a house where he is informed that the boy's behavior strongly suggests he is under demonic possession. The scene then transitions to the possessed child who brazenly tells Father that he is the devil, unafraid of a god he deems deceitful. Father challenges him by stating that if he is truly the devil, he should reveal his name, and justify his choice of possessing this boy over someone with more influence. The devil states that he has the power to possess anyone, just as a pig is brought into the scene. Father Amorth expresses his disbelief, taunting the devil that he lacks the ability to even take control of the pig. After much provocation, the devil takes over the pig, which is promptly shot, and Father reassures the boy that the devil has been expelled. Later, we are introduced to Julia, who is relocating from the United States to Spain with her daughter Amy and son Henry. They reach their new residence, currently under restoration, where they encounter Carlos, who introduces Julia to Father Thomas. We learn that the church property has been passed down through generations of Julia's late husband, which they inherited. Meanwhile, Henry ventures into the basement while exploring the house and notices a hole in the wall. Peering through it, he spots an object marked with the symbol of the Vatican. Later, Julia seeks out Amy in her room, informing her of their dire financial situation. She elaborates that their plan is to fix up the church and sell it off, returning to America. Meanwhile, she entrusts Amy with the responsibility of looking after her younger brother. Later, Father Gabriele is summoned to Rome for an interrogation. There, Cardinal Sullivan confronts him about an exorcism he performed in Tropea, carried out without the necessary authorization from the bishop. Father Gabriele responds by claiming the boy was suffering from mental illness, and he merely played with his mind. Bishop Lumumba defends Father Gabriele, emphasizing that in 98% of situations, Father Gabriele directs cases to medical and psychiatric professionals. Father Gabriele, describing himself as a pragmatist, inquires about the real purpose of this interrogation. Cardinal Sullivan reveals that the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith has suggested to the panel that the role of Chief Exorcist should be officially discontinued. Taken aback, Gabriele questions whether this implies a denial of the devil's existence. Sullivan responds, explaining that the church is consistently striving to guide its followers towards hope and must abandon such antiquated belief systems. Gabriele retorts, questioning if this is all about the deceased girl Rosaria, a subject he addressed in a magazine article. Sullivan sternly advises him to communicate respectfully with his superiors. Gabriele retorts that as the Vatican's chief exorcist, his position was conferred upon him by his bishop, thus any concerns should be brought to the Pope's attention. Later that night, a worker in the basement of Julia's house hears an unusual noise emanating from the hole in the wall. When he lights a torch to investigate, an explosion occurs, severely injuring him. In the midst of this, Henry starts experiencing convulsions, and as Julia rushes to him, he sits up, declaring that everyone's going to die before frantically clawing at his face. He is promptly taken to a hospital for examination, where Julia is informed that all of his test results appear normal. The medics inquire whether her son has ever undergone any significant trauma, and she discloses the death of his father a year prior, an event after which Henry ceased speaking. The doctor diagnoses Henry with psychosis and suggests that Julia seek consultation from a reputable psychiatrist. During the night, the lights in the house suddenly cut out and Henry jolts up. Julia approaches him thinking he is scared, while Amy ventures to the basement to restore the power. Henry grabs Julia's breast, stating that he is hungry and wants to breastfeed. He pushes her away, revealing hate carved into his stomach, and insists they summon the priest. They reach out to Father Thomas for assistance, but upon his arrival, Henry forcefully expels him from the room, claiming they've brought the incorrect priest. Meanwhile, Father Gabriele meets with the Pope, who claims that Cardinal Sullivan and the current generation have lost faith in the existence of Satan. He then briefs Father Gabriele on the disturbing circumstances surrounding Henry, voicing his fear of a potentially lethal demon that only Father Gabriele can unmask. He instructs him to travel to Spain without delay to assist the child. Upon arriving in Spain, Father Gabriele meets with Father Thomas, who is overjoyed to see him and expresses admiration for his published works. He escorts Father Gabriele to Julia's house, where he inquires about Henry's medical history regarding his condition. He offers to provide his own assessment after observing Henry, leaving the subsequent decisions up to her. When Father Gabriele attempts to engage with Henry, he receives no response. However, as the priest begins praying beside him, Henry opens his eyes, stating that his prayer is worthless. Father Gabriele reveals the Benedictine medal to him, and in response, the demonic presence within Henry is instantly unveiled. Father Gabriele demands to know the entity's name and its reason for choosing this boy, to which he responds that he's enjoying ruining the boy's innocence and anticipates even greater enjoyment in the downfall of a priest. He informs Father Gabriele that he knows everything about him. Father Gabriele insists that the entity reveal its name if it isn't afraid, but he replies that he isn't foolish enough to enter a pig. The entity then taunts Father Gabriele about his horrific dreams, which triggers a flashback to the Second World War when Father Gabriele, paralyzed by fear, lay hidden among fallen soldiers while his comrades were slaughtered. Afterward, Henry regurgitates a bird, terrifying Father Gabriele. The entity proclaims that Gabriel's sins will find him and promises a future encounter. Gabriele confides in Thomas, expressing his concern about the entity's intimate knowledge of his past and its choice of Henry as a host. To understand this choice, he needs to converse with Julia. Gabriele informs Julia that her son is possessed by a particularly menacing demon and warns her that removing Henry from the house could prove deadly. When questioned about any traumatic events in Henry's past, Julia divulges that he witnessed his father's death, which deeply affected him. Gabriele vows to stand by them, explaining that trauma could serve as a gateway for a demon, as suffering can lead a desperate soul to seek any form of connection, rendering the innocent more susceptible. In the meantime, Amy hears strange noises from outside and investigates, suspecting it might be Henry. When she enters Henry's room, he suddenly awakens, frightening her into running to her own room. The phone in her room rings. On the other end is her father, saying that they're all going to die. She rushes to tell her mother. Later, Gabriele informs Thomas that the demon they face is powerful, and it's unlikely the child will survive for long. To expel the demon, they must find out its name, which is the only way to save the child. Father Gabriele prepares Thomas for the exorcism, informing him that prayer is his only weapon and communication with the demon should be avoided. They proceed to Henry's room, where the demon attempts to divert Gabriele by invoking memories of the past war incident. Gabriele remains undeterred, instructing Thomas to commence the prayer while he initiates the exorcism. Thomas, inexperienced in such matters, is understandably apprehensive, and the room suddenly descends into darkness. Gabriele retrieves a lighter from his pocket, and abruptly, Rosaria appears, warning that his past will haunt him. Father counters that his sins have been forgiven, to which she retorts that he has yet to forgive himself, including her death which he failed to prevent. She questions why he didn't believe her. She collapses onto the bed, and Gabriele sees that everything is back to normal. Henry rises and tauntingly asks Gabriele if he's enjoying everything. Following this, Henry discloses Thomas's sin involving Adela, whose family held him in high esteem before he slept with their daughter. This triggers Thomas, who attempts to choke Henry, but Gabriele explains that this is merely a ploy by the demon. Thomas departs the room, and as Gabriele is about to leave, the devil insinuates that Gabriele has fallen into his trap and is now vulnerable to his impending destruction. Thomas later confides in Gabriele that Adela had urged him to renounce his priesthood, but he had no intention of doing so, and was forced to lie to her. When Gabriele asks whether he has any regrets, Thomas says yes, and Gabriele prays to God for forgiveness of his sins. Gabriele shares his painful memory of Rosaria, a girl he failed to save, and suggests that the demon is manipulating him with these recollections. He then recalls the devil's assertion that he has been trapped and realizes that the devil's target isn't Henry, it's something else. He informs Thomas that he's going to the park, having noticed something unusual there, and asks him to keep watch over Henry. Upon reaching the park, he discovers the Vatican seal, recalling that the Pope had mentioned previous issues associated with that location. Meanwhile, the crucifix in Julia's room inverts itself, revealing an unknown entity sharing her bed. As she stirs awake, the entity attacks her, attempting to drag her into the mattress. Thomas is reciting prayers when a desperate call from Henry interrupts him, prompting him to rush into Henry's room. As Thomas approaches, Henry abruptly awakens, bites his ear, and chillingly declares that no one will survive this ordeal. In Amy's room, an invisible entity flings Amy from her bed. Overcome with fear, she barricades herself in her closet. Father Gabriele uncovers a hidden well beneath a Vatican seal. Upon dropping a lit piece of paper into it to investigate, an explosion ensues. Returning home to the chilling sounds of Julia and Amy's terrified screams, Father Gabriele directs Thomas to attend to Amy while he heads to Julia's room. Upon entering, he helps Julia and then proceeds to Amy's room where they witness an unseen force attacking her. Father Gabriele invokes the name of God, compelling the entity to release Amy and successfully casting out the demon. Concerned for their safety, they relocate to the church, deeming their home unsafe. After, Gabriele takes Thomas to the well where he shows a Spanish court seal lodged within. Father Gabriele discloses that this era was the darkest in the church's history. He informs him that these are the victims who refused to renounce their faith. Venturing to the basement, they discover a cracked wall concealing a Vatican seal. The presence of lethal sulfur gas becomes evident, and as Gabriele begins to dismantle the wall, the devil awakens. Inside a hidden chamber, Gabriele informs Thomas that this is the tunnel of sin. In the center of the room, they find a ring belonging to a deceased body, identified by Gabriele as the last beacon of hope for the church, the cardinal protector. He further explains that the cage is not a prison but for his safety, a last resort when an exorcism is unsuccessful. This measure is taken to protect him from the fleeing demons and to bury this secret indefinitely. In the midst of his investigation in Rome, the Pope comes across a distressing letter from the Cardinal Guardian, confirming their gravest fears. An evil force has taken over the Abbey of San Sebastian and he must be eternally buried. Despite all efforts, exorcism failed. The devil has taken over, displaying a demonic strength unlike anything previously witnessed. After reading the letter, the Pope has a heart attack. The Pope is rushed to the hospital, where he instructs Bishop Lumumba to convey the news to Gabriel. When Sullivan asks the Pope about the dilemma Gabriel has put them in, the Pope vomits blood on him. Father Gabriel retrieves a key from within the Cardinal Protector and requests Thomas to unlock a door. They venture into a tunnel where the concentration of sulfur is high, leading Gabriel to suggest they're nearing the depths of hell. Inside, they discover Father Ojito's corpse. Gabriel reveals to Thomas that Ojito was one of the best exorcists of his era. They pick up a book bearing the emblem of the Spanish court from Ojito, which reveals that this devil has been possessing people for centuries. In 1475, the devil had possessed the father, and the subsequent events were all driven by the devil. It becomes clear why the devil claimed his sin would haunt him and how the renovation work may have unintentionally freed the devil. Subsequently, the devil was cast into the underworld, accompanied by his 200 angels, all of whom were buried in hell, and this church stands as one of those damned places. Meanwhile in the church, Julia awakens to find Amy missing and decides to return home to look for her. Upon arrival, she finds Amy in Henry's room, both assuring her that Henry is well. Julia invites Amy to accompany her downstairs, but Henry furiously refuses. When Julia tries to remove Amy from the room, the devil retaliates, attacking Julia and seizing control of Amy, gruesomely twisting her head. As Gabriel discovers the devil's name to be Asmodeus, the demon shrieks, and the Pope's condition further worsens. In the ensuing chaos, both Amy and Julia are liberated. Amy promptly administers a sedative to Henry, which Julia had brought, causing him to lose consciousness. Gabriel then explains that the devil, through Ojito, had committed monstrous acts, and intends to repeat this by possessing him. However, now that they know the devil's name, they stand a chance at vanquishing him and saving the child. Gabriel goes on to confess about his past. During the war, he was a rebel, and many of his comrades fell to German fire, but he survived. After that, he decided to devote his life to serving God. During Rosaria's exorcism, however, he didn't believe her. Rosaria claimed the devil violated her nightly, and when asked about the devil's appearance, she claimed he looked like Gabriel. This was followed by her eating a live bird. Gabriel concluded she was not possessed but mentally ill, and due to his arrogance, he handed her case over to someone else, leading to her tragic suicide in his presence. Upon her passing, whispers of sexual exploitation that had been silenced by the Vatican reached his ears. She needed him, yet he failed to come to her aid. He carries the burden of her soul and the devil knows this. They return home to perform the exorcism. Gabriel reminds them that the devil will exploit their sins to deceive them, urging them to not believe everything they see. They proceed to Henry's room where the devil has completely taken over. The entity questions whether everyone has confessed their sins. As Gabriel and Thomas begin the exorcism, the demon taunts at the idea of confessing to their God, suggesting it should be made to Rosaria instead. Gabriel spots Rosaria's body suspended upside down above Henry's bed and reassures himself that this is not real. Attempting to distract Thomas, the devil shows him Adela, but Gabriel instructs him to pray. Using the devil's name, Gabriel commands the demon to release the child. Thomas joins him and together they begin reciting prayers which weakens the devil, who eventually collapses after a deafening scream. Peace returns momentarily and Henry cries out for his mother. Gabriel urges her to keep talking with her son, emphasizing the need for his mother's affection. As Henry's eyes close, the message, "God is not here," appears etched into his abdomen. They then realize that Amy was now possessed by the devil. They watch in fear as she scales the wall in front of them. She leaps down before Julia, and Henry tells Gabriel to fulfill his request. When Gabriel refuses, Amy launches an attack on Julia. When Thomas tries to intervene, he is suspended in the air by his stole. Gabriel tells the devil to leave the kids alone and focus on him instead. The devil replies that Gabriel is to blame for everything and that he needs to decide quickly. Gabriel chooses to become the devil's servant, causing the devil to release the others and possess him instead. Questioned by Thomas, Gabriel instructs him to evacuate everyone from the premises immediately. Thomas escorts Julia and her children to safety, assuring them that Henry was no longer in danger. Meanwhile, Gabriel is locked in a struggle with the devil, asserting his defiance, only to be saved by the devil when he attempts to hang himself. Gabriel ventures into the catacomb intending to burn himself along with the devil. However, just as he is about to do so, Mother Mary appears to him, and he falls to his knees, only to be attacked by the devil disguised as Rosaria. When Thomas arrives at the catacombs in search of Gabriel, he finds him sitting on the throne. The devil warns him that his friend is gone and advises him to flee. Thomas urges Gabriel to resist the devil. Undeterred, Thomas reminds Gabriel of his true identity, weakening the devil's hold over him. As Thomas recites prayers, the devil levitates him in the air. Sensing the devil weakening, Thomas commands it to abandon Gabriel's body. Following a deafening scream, the demon exits Gabriel and manifests as Rosaria, flinging Thomas aside. The devil then summons Adele to attack Thomas. Thomas places the sacred locket on her head, vanquishing her. He passes a crucifix to Gabriel, who uses it to repel Rosaria. Embarking on the final ritual, they recite a prayer together, successfully banishing the devil back to hell. Several days later, Gabriel introduces Thomas to the Pope, who commends them for their brave efforts. The Pope informs them of Cardinal Sullivan's departure and the appointment of Bishop Lumumba as the new cardinal. Lumumba reveals that the Vatican had acquired the church from the Vasquez family and has fully sanctified it. The family has safely returned to America, and the child has fully recovered. They have vanquished Asmodeus, but many other demons still lurk, waiting to be found. There are a total of 199 such places in the world that they will soon track down. He then poses a question to Gabriel, asking if he was prepared to undertake this mission. Gabriel in turn asks Thomas if he is willing to join him in this endeavor, to which Thomas consents. Thanks for watching, like and subscribe for more videos.